So imagine you hire a new logistics coordinator.
Okay.
You hand them a laptop, and you basically expect them to spend at least, I don't know, 3 weeks just figuring out where the digital coffee machine is.
Right, yeah, let alone making any actual decisions that impact the bottom line.
Exactly. But instead, like before lunch on day one, they autonomously rewrite your entire software backend. They reroute your global supply chain to avoid some storm in the Pacific. And they discover a 27-year-old security flaw no one in your IT department even knew existed.
Which is just wild to even think about.
It is. And the catch here is that this new hire isn't human. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at this massive stack of sources from early May 2026. We've got corporate memos, cybersecurity briefings, tech leaderboards, and even some dispatches from a high-stakes federal courtroom.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack today.
There really is. And, they all point to this one monumental shift. AI is no longer just this helpful digital assistant that summarizes your emails. It has crossed the threshold into becoming a completely autonomous operator.
Yeah, in the industry, people are calling this the agentic shift. We are officially moving past that era where software just patiently waits for your prompt.
Right.
Now, the software actually perceives its environment, makes a plan, and then takes action entirely on its own.
So our mission today is to explore how this agentic shift is fundamentally rewriting the rules of the enterprise. We'll look at how it's collapsing the cybersecurity landscape, displacing human labor, and really sparking this winner-take-all battle for control in both the physical and digital worlds.
It's a huge pivot. And to understand how AI got out of the chat box and into the driver's seat, we really have to look at the underlying plumbing of the internet.
Right, the infrastructure.
Exactly. Specifically, this massive shakeup over at Amazon Web Services.
Yeah.
If you want to understand how a new tech is going to change your daily life, you don't look at the consumer apps. You look at the infrastructure. And, well, that infrastructure just underwent a seismic reorganization.
Okay, break that down for us. What exactly happened?
So for years, if a business wanted to plug OpenAI's most powerful models into their corporate systems using an API, which is basically just a bridge that lets two pieces of software talk to each other, they had to go through Microsoft Azure.
Because Microsoft had that exclusive lock on the third-party cloud distribution.
Right, they had exclusive rights. But as of April 28th, 2026, Microsoft officially lost that exclusivity.
Wow. Okay, but why does that exclusivity really matter? Like, if I'm a business, why do I care whose cloud the AI lives on as long as I get to use it?
It really all comes down to friction. I mean, imagine you're this massive global logistics company. All of your customer data, your complex security protocols, your billing, it's all already running natively on Amazon Web Services or AWS.
Right, AWS is huge in the enterprise space.
Massive. So under the old rules, if you wanted OpenAI's models to analyze your private data, you actually had to route that data out of AWS and over to Microsoft Azure.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare for IT.
It is. You're managing two different cloud billing relationships and trying to balance two completely different security environments.
Sure.
Corporate procurement and IT departments they hate that kind of complexity. It drastically slows down how fast a company can adopt new tech.
So it's essentially a walled garden.
Precisely. But with that exclusivity gone, AWS immediately announced that OpenAI's frontier models, so we're talking GPT-5.5, GPT-5.4, and their coding model, Codex, along with OpenAI managed agents, they are all now available in limited preview directly on Amazon Bedrock.
That's a massive deal.
It is. AWS enterprise customers can basically just flip a switch now. They can use these tools with their existing security and IAM credentials without ever having to route through Azure.
Let's pause there for a second. For the listener who maybe doesn't live in cloud architecture all day, what is an IAM credential?
Oh, right. So IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. Just think of it as the digital bouncer for a company's data. It dictates who's allowed to see what.
Okay, got it.
Because AWS customers can now use their existing IAM roles with OpenAI's models, they don't have to train a new bouncer. The AI just securely steps right into the company's existing workflow. It completely removes the friction.
It feels like AI just went from being, I don't know, a luxury appliance you had to buy from one specific store to being the actual electricity running through the walls of every business.
That is a perfect analogy, and AWS is pushing this so aggressively. They also announced Amazon Quick, which is this desktop AI assistant that doesn't even require an AWS account to generate polished documents.
Oh, wow. Really? Just straight to the desktop.
Yeah, and they expanded Amazon Connect into 4 new agentic AI solutions. So they have ones like decisions for supply chain management and talent for hiring.
That's wild. And they're partnering with other massive enterprise players too, right?
Yeah, exactly. SAP and AWS just announced an AI co-innovation program. They're going to use Amazon Bedrock and SAP BTP to solve real-time ERP challenges.
Okay. ERP, meaning Enterprise Resource Planning Software. Basically the central nervous system of a major corporation, right? The financials, inventory, all of that.
Exactly. So when you embed autonomous agents directly into an ERP system, we aren't just talking about generating a quarterly report faster. Let's say there's a sudden port strike in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Traditionally, a human analyst sees the news, opens up their SAP dashboard, realizes 3 shipping containers of crucial microchips are delayed, and then spends hours emailing suppliers to find an alternative.
Right. Lots of manual panic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with this new AWS and SAP integration, the AI agent is monitoring global news and the SAP inventory simultaneously. It sees the strike, calculates the production impact, autonomously purchases alternative microchips from a supplier in Mexico, and reroutes the shipping lines.
Without a human ever opening a spreadsheet.
All in seconds, without any human intervention. And to support this kind of constant background thinking,
Yeah.
AWS is literally sunsetting Amazon Q Developer to replace it with a new system called Kiro by 2027.
Wow. They are not messing around.
No, they aren't. They even launched new EC2 instances, the M80 and M80 series, and added optimization capabilities to Bedrock Agent Core. They are upgrading the actual physical servers to handle these agentic workloads.
Okay, so if these powerful autonomous agents are being handed to every major enterprise on the planet, we really need to look at what happens to the human beings sitting at the desks when a company actually flips that switch.
Yeah, the human cost is the immediate fallout here.
Because if you're listening to this sitting in a corporate job right now thinking your department is irreplaceable, well, we have a live, real-world case study playing out right now that challenges that assumption pretty hard.
You're talking about the big Coinbase restructuring.
I am. So on May 5th, Coinbase announced a 14% staff cut. That's laying off 693 employees. And usually when a crypto company cuts staff, you just assume the crypto market is down and they're trimming the fat.
Right, typical cyclical stuff.
Exactly. But CEO Brian Armstrong explicitly stated this is not cyclical cost cutting. He said this is a permanent structural pivot to an AI-native operating model.
The details of that operating model are fascinating. Their stated goal is for 50% of their internal code to be written by AI. To do that, they're actually mandating the use of tools like Cursor and GitHub Copilot.
And they are totally flattening their organizational structure, too. They called it a player coach model. What does that actually look like for the people who survived the layoffs?
Well, in a traditional tech company, you have like a product manager who decides what to build, a designer who draws it, an engineer who codes it, and a tester who checks it.
Right, a whole team.
But under Coinbase's new model, they're experimenting with one-person teams. So a single human employee acts as the manager or the coach, and they use AI agents to do the designing, coding, and testing.
So the human is just directing a team of specialized software bots.
Exactly. And just as a side note on the layoffs, the severance package included 16 weeks of pay plus 6 months of COBRA, which shows they were willing to pay a premium to make this structural shift happen quickly.
That's a heavy pivot, but that requires the software bots to be incredibly competent. I mean, can they actually replace a senior software engineer right now?
The data suggests they're getting terrifyingly close. Have you looked at the latest SWE Bench leaderboards?
Remind me, SWE Bench is the standardized test for software engineering models, right? Where it gives the AI a real-world broken piece of software and says, fix this.
Exactly. It's a highly rigorous evaluation, and the latest numbers are staggering. Claude 4.5 Opus is resolving 76.8% of these complex issues autonomously.
Wow. Over 75%.
Yeah, and Gemini 3 Flash is right behind it at 75.8%. And it's not even just the massive computationally heavy models. A lightweight open source tool called Mini SW Agent is hitting a 74% resolution rate using just 100 lines of Python code.
Wait, really? Just 100 lines of Python? That means this capability is becoming incredibly accessible. But here's my big question. If an AI is writing code that fast, how does a human possibly keep up with reviewing it?
Well, they don't. And that's a huge problem.
Right, because I was reading about a developer who used an AI agent to build a payment integration. The AI generated the code, the payment flow worked perfectly in testing, so the developer just clicked approve.
Let me guess. They missed something critical.
Completely. The next day, he realized the AI had hard-coded his actual live Stripe API key right into the middle of the public file. He completely missed it because he was focused on the big picture, and the AI was spitting out hundreds of lines of code a second.
Yeah, that is a classic example of what the industry is now calling the speed risk.
It's like putting a Ferrari engine in a golf cart.
Hmm.
The AI coding agent is going 200 miles an hour, but the human developer reviewing the code is still driving at 15. Are we just replacing slow human coding with incredibly fast AI mistakes?
It's a very real concern. Human attention is now the ultimate bottleneck in software development. But economically speaking, the market is completely ignoring the risk right now. When Coinbase announced they were displacing human engineers for an AI model, their stock actually went up 4%.
So Wall Street is actively rewarding this. But practically, how is the industry trying to solve that Ferrari engine problem? Because our legacy human review systems are totally breaking down.
The only way to manage an AI going 200 miles an hour is to have another AI riding shotgun. That's the current solution. For instance, GitHub just made their secret scanning tool generally available, and it's powered by an MCP server.
Okay, let's break that down. What is an MCP server and how does it ride shotgun?
So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. When a developer is working inside their IDE, which is basically their digital workbench where they write code, they use an AI assistant like Copilot Chat. The MCP server acts as an automated real-time supervisor inside that chat. So before the developer can even commit the code to the main system, the MCP server scans it and says, wait, I see an exposed credential on line 42. You need to remove that before proceeding.
So it's literally a machine checking the machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's highly accessible. GitHub is pricing it at just $19 a month for teams. It represents a total shift. The human is no longer the reviewer. The human is the instigator. And layered AIs handle both the execution and the quality control.
That is just, it's a huge paradigm shift. But we've spent this whole time talking about how fast an AI can understand and write code to build things.
Right.
If it can read code that fast, it stands to reason it can also analyze code to find the hidden cracks. Which brings us to this terrifying new threshold in cybersecurity.
Oh, absolutely. If it can build, it can break. And it can break things far faster than humans can fix them.
Exactly. So we have this newly leaked corporate briefing from KPMG from early May, and it details a new AI model developed by Anthropic. They're calling the tier Capybara, and the model itself is known as Claude Mythos.
Right. The Mythos leak.
Yeah. And Anthropic has officially deemed Mythos too powerful to release publicly. I mean, think about that. A major tech company built something, tested it, and decided it was simply too dangerous to put on the open internet.
And when you read the KPMG briefing, you understand why. Mythos autonomously identifies and exploits zero-day vulnerabilities.
And for our listeners, a 0-day is a software flaw that the original developers have literally 0 days of warning about, right?
Yeah.
It's a backdoor no one knew existed.
Exactly. It's the holy grail for hackers. And in a controlled test environment, Mythos solved a 32-step corporate network takeover simulation from start to finish, completely end-to-end.
Unbelievable.
Didn't just guess a password. It escalated its own administrative privileges, hit its tracks. It even achieved a 73% success rate on expert-level capture-the-flag hacking challenges.
And what's crazy to me is that in one of these tests, Mythos found a software vulnerability that had been sitting completely undetected in a secure system for 27 years.
27 years, just sitting there.
Yeah. And the report notes that over 99% of the vulnerabilities this AI discovered remain unpatched today. So Anthropic's mitigation strategy is something they're calling Project Glasswing.
Which is essentially a massive defensive scramble.
Right. They're restricting access to this model to just 12 launch partners, so companies like Apple, Microsoft, JP Morgan, and critical software maintainers. And they're giving them $100 million in usage credits just to frantically scan and defend their own systems before bad actors inevitably build similar tech.
Yeah, the timeline is shrinking to zero.
It sounds like we've basically built a lock-picking robot that is so good we have to lock it in a vault while we frantically try to change every single lock in the world before someone else builds one just like it.
That is exactly what is happening. And the KPMG report states point blank that the traditional enterprise patch window, which is usually like 30 to 90 days, is no longer defensible. The gap between AI capabilities and elite human hackers has basically collapsed in under 3 years.
But why does this completely break our current cyber defenses?
It comes down to machine speed lateral movement. When a human hacker breaches a system, they don't usually land right on the server holding the most valuable data. They get a small foothold, maybe compromise an email account, and then they slowly move sideways laterally through the network.
Right, looking for the crown jewels.
Exactly. And corporate security operations centers, or SOCs, are calibrated to detect human-paced lateral movement. A human has to stop and analyze the network topography. A human needs to sleep.
But an AI agent operates at machine speed. It doesn't sleep.
Right. By the time a human security analyst gets a red alert on their screen, the AI has already mapped the network, moved laterally 50 times, and compromised the entire estate.
What I find most unsettling about this whole Mythos thing is that Anthropic didn't even explicitly train it to be a master hacker.
No, they didn't. This cyber capability is just a downstream consequence. As the model got better at general coding and long-horizon reasoning, which, by the way, are the exact same skills needed to reroute a supply chain for SAP, it naturally became highly adept at dismantling network security.
Okay, so we've spent this whole time talking about AI breaking out of its software boxes. But this autonomous capability isn't just staying trapped inside servers, is it? It's moving into the physical world.
Yeah, the embodiment of AI. We're seeing generalized brains moving into physical hardware, which drastically raises the stakes of who actually controls these systems.
Exactly. So just recently, a robotics startup called Physical Intelligence unveiled the P0.7 robot brain. And it's designed to blend perception, planning, and control without needing explicit instructions for every single scenario.
All right, so instead of a programmer writing code that says, if you see a cup, close your gripper exactly 2 inches, the robot absorbs raw sensor data and builds a predictive model of the world. It figures out tasks it was never explicitly taught to do.
But reviewers have pointed out that there's a bit of a gap between lab demos and real-world ruggedness, right?
Oh, definitely. If you look closely at the public materials for Pi 0.7, crucial hardware specifications are completely missing.
Like what?
Well, they don't list the payload capacity, so we don't know how much weight the robot can actually lift. They also don't list the degrees of freedom, or DOF, which is the technical term for how many independent joints or ways the robot can bend.
Okay, so there's a gap between what the brain can think and what the body can do.
Exactly. It's one thing for a digital brain to infer how to pick up a plastic cup in a pristine lab. It is entirely different to translate that digital plan into the physical force required to operate a forklift in a messy warehouse.
Right. But even with those physical limitations, the fact that generalized digital and physical brains are emerging right now has basically accelerated the fight over who owns the underlying tech to a boiling point. And that fight is currently playing out in a federal courthouse.
You talking about the trial?
Yes. Day 5 of the Musk v. Altman trial. Elon Musk is arguing that OpenAI's leaders betrayed their original charitable mission to develop safe AI for humanity in order to enrich themselves.
The testimony has been incredibly tense.
Well, it really has. I mean, Greg Brockman, the OpenAI co-founder, testified, and Musk's lawyer, Stephen Mollo, grilled him on the stand. He actually brought out Brockman's own personal journal entries from August 2017.
Oh, the 2017 journal. That was a big moment.
Yeah. In the journal, Brockman literally wrote the question, financially, what will take me to 1B? $1 billion. Mollo used that entry to suggest the founders were always looking for a way to cash in.
And Mollo forced Brockman to admit on the stand that he now holds a $30 billion stake in the for-profit subsidiary, a stake he didn't even have to put his own money into.
And when Mollo asked if he had given the extra $29 billion back to the nonprofit, Brockman had to concede that he had not.
Though, to be fair, Brockman did argue that the nonprofit entity itself now holds a $200 billion stake in the company. So theoretically, it's a massively resourced charity.
Sure, but it's such a jarring contrast. I mean, we are looking at generalized robot brains and autonomous cyber weapons that could disrupt global society, and the guys building it are sitting in a federal courthouse arguing over their $30 billion slice of the pie.
It really is wild. And it highlights the core tension of this entire industry right now. During that same trial, Stuart Russell, he's a highly respected AI expert from UC Berkeley, he testified about this exact dynamic.
What did he say?
He warned the court about the race to AGI, artificial general intelligence. He stated that this is a winner-take-all race.
Meaning whoever crosses the finish line first doesn't just get a gold medal. They effectively control a vast portion of future global economic activity.
Exactly. The technology is advancing so fast. I mean, we just talked about the Mythos hacking capabilities and the SWE bench coding scores. Russell warned that these massive financial incentives make it highly likely that safety will just become a secondary consideration.
Because when the prize is a monopoly on the digital workforce of the future, you have to run as fast as possible.
Right, even if you know the Ferrari engine is going too fast for the brakes.
So bringing all of this together, we started with the plumbing. We saw AWS and OpenAI tearing down the walled gardens, turning autonomous AI into the basic electricity of the enterprise.
Yep.
We saw the immediate human cost of that electricity being switched on at Coinbase, where human coders are being replaced by lightweight models working at blinding speed. We explored the darker side of that speed with Claude Mythos redefining cyber warfare. And finally, we saw the architects of this new reality fighting in court over unprecedented wealth.
It is a profound reorganization of how work, security, and power operate. And if you take all these data points together, I think it leaves you with a really uncomfortable question. Well, if autonomous agents are now capable of writing the enterprise code, and if those same agents are capable of finding the zero-day vulnerabilities hidden in that code,
Right.
and if AI agents are the only things fast enough to deploy the patches to defend against those vulnerabilities,
Right.
how long until the human being goes from being the driver of technology to just a spectator in an endless machine-to-machine loop?
Wow. Yeah, think about that new logistics hire we talked about at the very beginning, the one who rewrites the back end and fixes the supply chain before lunch. We are so focused on marveling at how fast they work, we might not realize that eventually they just stop needing us to hand them the company handbook at all. They just write a new one and expect us to follow it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the rapid changes in the world around you because the pace is only getting faster.